Hello, everybody, and welcome to our webinar on what you need to know before you write the first word by my good friend Felice Gerwitz. Felice and I have worked together for some time. What now has it been, Felice? A couple years at least we've been working together?
Yeah, about that long.
Yeah. So, this is Nate Kievman with the Link Strategies Group, and we are excited to be able to bring to you Felice Gerwitz, who is one of the most intelligent people I know when it comes to writing books and the whole process of book writing, all of the strategies around authoring and publishing a book. Felice is my go-to person, and I wanted to share her with everybody else so that you guys can, if you're an aspiring author or you're already a published author, you can take what you've done and you've already been able to turn it on to the next level. So sorry about the interruption there. We have I muted a couple people there. So Felice has also brought with her Carol Topp, and I'll let Felice introduce Carol as we go through the sessions here. But with that, Felice, thank you so much for sharing with our audience, and I really look forward to hearing what you have to share with everyone.
Oh, thank you so much, Nate. I appreciate it. And Nate is one of those people that I met online and attended one of his webinars and was so impressed with his heart and how he stayed. I believe it was like one of those mega webinars, Nate, where you were on for like 3 or 4 hours. And I thought, gosh, this guy is amazing, and I've got to get to know him. And so someone asked a question about writing and publishing, and I messaged you, and that's basically how I got to know Nate, and we traded off some services back and forth. And again, just really appreciate all he's done and the work that we've done together. You really get to know somebody when you ghostwrite for them, because I think we've been in airports together, crying kids in the back seat of his car, and all kinds of mishaps that happen along the way. So we grab time wherever we can, and we're both busy. Appreciate you having us on, Nate, and also want to introduce Carol Topp, who is an author and a CPA. And again, I met Carol through my relationships online, and I asked her to write a book, which is really unusual for someone who publishes, and I'll tell you a little bit about what I do in a minute, to ask someone to write a book, and she was great at getting that to me, and within the process of a few years, it still takes a couple of years, even if you're a small publisher, to get it right. Have launched the second in what I call the Information in a Nutshell series, and so we're going to discuss that. Carol, I want to just say hi and thanks for being on here with me.
Hi, Felice. Nice to talk to you again, and Nate, nice to meet you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, likewise.
All right, well, let's get started. I'm going to ask you guys to mute your mics, and so I'll go ahead and get through my presentation, and then we'll get Carol on here, and then maybe let's just hold questions to the very end, and we'll be happy to answer those. I want to talk to you today coming from the perspective of a publisher and an author since 1994, and what I'm going to talk to you about can be applicable to anybody who is wanting to either write a book, has articles on a blog, or even sends emails. And if you keep these 5 steps in mind, I think that you're going to be very successful in what you do. I call them 5 secrets every writer should know, and you're probably thinking, oh, she's going to get into punctuation and grammar and semantics, and if you're writing fiction, how to set a character into a novel or something like that, but I'm not. I'm going to talk to you about relationships and joint ventures, similar to what I'm doing with Nate here, and even what I'm doing with Carol. Look at who you know and start networking. It's really going to help you if you're so busy writing a blog and writing articles or sending off emails, and people are looking at the heading, they're pretty much deleting them. That's what I do every morning, and I get this sense of pleasure. I don't know if any of you are like that, when you look at your inbox and you can just get rid of about 20 or 30 emails right off the bat. it's one of the best feelings to think, oh gosh, I've gotten rid of a lot of things I don't have to look at later. So what are the ones that I open as far as emails go? What are the blogs I'm going to read? And what am I going to do during that day in reaching out to different people? Anywhere you are, get your picture taken. That's an important thing. I get my picture taken if I'm showing at a convention or if I'm with important people. I was at a seminar by Dan Pointer, who worked within a very, very niche market, and he really challenged us to reach out and ask people for recommendations, and that's something else we'll talk about in a minute. Obviously setting up your social media, and the go-to person for that is Nate, especially in LinkedIn. We worked on a LinkedIn workbook that I believe Nate gives away for free if you sign up for his e-group, and that will get you started. I love people that just throw up a Twitter and their little avatar is the little bird. Make sure your stuff's built out and have the right face out there. And let me show you what I mean. Everybody talks about branding and standing out and being found, and I've had a metamorphosis of sorts. Went from having the little clip art angel for my company, Media Angels, great picture. I hate, there aren't too many of us that are narcissistic out there, and it's very rare excuse me, for a woman to see a picture of herself and say, oh, I look great. But that was a happy time. It was a 10th anniversary picture sitting outside, on our deck with my husband, cropped him out. I mean, that's 90% of what you see out there in the business world is a little crop picture. And really, it's important to have a professional picture and have a professional logo done. And you want to be found with a brand. I have many, many different. I'm very eclectic. I have a very niche market within the homeschool world. I also have a niche market in social media to realtors for my husband's business as a home inspector, and I have another niche market as a consultant for authors. So whatever your niche is, you want to brand under one, part or emblem or logo, if you will. For me, it's a company that I even trademarked the name Media Angels, and that really lends itself to a lot of different things. The biggest thing is you're going to want to stand out. Why do you want to stand out if you're an author? Because when you have that book coming out or that article that you're posting on your blog, you want people to flock to it. Now, I'm really good at telling you what to do, and I'm going to tell you right now, I've let my blogging lag. I blogged, very well for about 2 years, and then I've just let it go. And so I've noticed because of that, and because I had a lot of guest bloggers on for me, that that is really has really made the commenting go down. And we could probably talk to Nate about some strategies on getting people to answer your blog posts. The third thing is your presence. Are you sought after? Do people want to talk to you about certain things? I cannot go to a party or a convention or anywhere without somebody stopping me and asking me something about what I do, my company, and especially if I give a talk on writing and publishing. We go to conventions, and many of them state conventions, and my husband and I are often approached at dinner. So if people are doing that, that's a very, very good sign. It might not make for a quiet evening meal with your husband or family or whatever, but it really gives you an idea that whatever you're doing well. If your inbox is clogged with a lot of emails with people asking you a lot of specific individual things, what you're probably going to want to do eventually is do what I did, and that is decide you're going to make that jump as a consultant or as a coach, whatever vein you want to go into, and then you can monetize on that. But the biggest thing is for people to find you, and the other thing, which I don't have time to go into, is how to connect everything together, because everything is like a cog on a wheel. If it doesn't filter in and go through and connect to each other, then that is going to be a problem. The other thing is the end result, which is why we're doing what we're doing. I love writing. It's a wonderful hobby. However, it has to produce some income, or it's going to have to be something I say, okay, I'll get to once in a while. And I think that's what happens with people's articles or posts or social media, that you get into it 100% to begin with, it becomes overwhelming, and then you leave it alone. Cutesy emails are great. I just got one from some gentleman that really needs to change his tagline. It was along the lines of, I don't know, finding girls or something. It must have been left over from his college days. Or I get, the cutesy, chick flicks at gmail.com. I mean, don't quote me on that one. But, if you're going to be a professional, you need to have a professional email. You need to have a professional tagline. You don't need to, form a company or get all that going if that's not where you're going with this. But if you're looking at getting found and getting your writing found, then it's important. Mailing lists are important. It is the way that you can stay in contact with people. I lament the fact that I went to conferences for about 10 years and really did not farm the emails. And I think about what my list could look like at this point, because I don't travel as much. And when you're in front of people, there has to be an incentive for them to give you their email. Now when I speak to groups, I will tell them to take out their cell phones, and everybody pretty much dutifully says what the person in front of the group, directs them to, and I'll say, text me your email, and I will send you a copy of the audio of this presentation. And so I do. With smartphones, it's amazing now. Even micro recorders you can bring along with you that turn your seminars into digital products, and that's a way to stay in front of them. And I started doing that with every presentation I do. I get up in front of a group and I say, here you have handouts. I never said that my background is teaching, and I'm such a teacher. I give them, little handouts and then send them an audio later that goes along with them, so they can listen again, and that helps you stay in front of them. If you have an email list, you cannot just send them a bunch of emails. Look, I have a new book. I just wrote a new article. You have to send them things that are going to be beneficial to them. That's one of the things that I've learned from working with Nate. It's all about not what you have and what you can produce or give. It's about what's in it for your customer. For me, everything is very time oriented. If I can't do my social media in 20 minutes a day, if I can't do my blogging, and blogging takes a long time, and that's one of the reasons that I don't blog as often, because if I'm going to spend 2 hours writing a blog post, I can spend 2 hours in writing an article and getting anywhere from $100 to $500. It's really hard to spend the time in giving my information away for free. So that's the point I'm at. You may not be there yet, so you have to look and weigh the options. Another thing, and this is I'm going to reveal one of my biggest secrets that I truthfully have to tell you I found out by accident, and that is the value of podcasting and radio. I've found that everybody talks about keywords and SEO, search engine optimization, and that kind of a thing. So that's all very well and good, and it sounds super complicated, and okay, let's put some keywords in your LinkedIn profile or in your post or in your blog or on your Facebook page, and get found, get found, get found. But I found that with podcasting and radio and webinars, in your ad copy, if you write that really well, and that does dovetail into these other things, it gets you found. I do a radio show for aspiring authors, and it's writingandpublishingradio.com. And I also have a blog, writingandpublishingblog.com, that's for authors. And as you notice, I did a quick URL that people could remember, more importantly myself, when I'm trying to find these things. And when I research other people, for example, I was looking for Dan Pointer once because I wanted to send him a thank you because he sent me a wonderful review of my book, and for some reason his email disappeared. And I found myself listed within the first couple of pages on the first page in searching for Dan because I had interviewed him on my radio show. So those are things that, you know, really money can't buy, and, you know, just again, little tips and tricks that I've learned. You know, also you can use blogging and podcasts as a commercial for your book, and I've done that. Every tagline in your emails and so forth. One of the things Nate's been after me for at least a year is getting a LinkedIn group started, and I had hoped to have it ready before this launch, but wasn't able to pull it off. But that is coming, and that is going to be, if you could think of having a publishing company at your disposal, we're going to have authors, editors, publicity people, all of the people you would need if you were walking into a publishing company and wanted to get your work produced. I will tell you that how-to books are very, very important. This first writing and publishing book is within 120 pages. You can find out just about everything you know to understand what it is, you know, you need to do to get your book out there. And then this next book, which leads me into our next presenter, is Business Tips and Taxes for Writers, because I, you know, have a testimony that poor Carol has had to hear so many times about not even incorporating until, you know, many years into my writing and publishing, and losing a lot of money because of that, which I could have used really to build my company more so than have to spend it before the year end because I didn't want to pay taxes. So with that, I am going to turn this over to Carol Topp and have her give her presentation.
Okay, Felice, thank you. That was awesome. I'm going to hand over the presentation over to Carol and make her the presenter now. Carol, you there? Did we lose Carol? Nope. Carol, can you hear us? Well, she's on the screen. There, Carol, I heard something.
Hi, Nate. I'm now talking. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Can you hear me, Nate? Oh, okay. And can you see my screen?
You are live. Go for it. Yep.
Oh, great. Great. Well, hi, everybody. Thanks so much, Felice, for sharing those great tips and great reminders. I'm thinking of starting my own podcast myself someday, because I think getting information to people via sound is so helpful, just like this webinar. So we're going to switch a little bit from what Felice was talking about in terms of branding and marketing to just the nuts and bolts of doing a business. Specifically, I'm going to talk to writers, because so many of business people, and probably in Nate's audience, are writers in one shape or form, whether you're writing a blog or a newsletter to your clients, or whether you want to consider something like writing a book. Felice mentioned that she asked me to write this book because she knew I was a CPA and knew I did have some ability to try to communicate very unclear things like taxes and business information in hopefully a clear and easy to understand way. And Felice shared her 5 secrets. I've got 5 too, but mostly we're going to focus on shortcutting the record keeping for tax purposes, because writers and business people are busy people, and writers especially are word people. They don't like dealing with the numbers. So I'm going to share with you stuff I've learned by being a business owner myself, as well as what I've learned by helping so many of my clients. Now, some of these are called secrets. I don't know. We'll see if there's stuff you might already know and already be doing, but they're good reminders. Number 1, have a separate business checking account. I don't know why so many people resist having a separate business checking account. They think it might complicate their lives, but instead mixing your personal finances with your business just ends up complicating life, because you're either going to spend a lot of time detangling all that, or you're going to pay me, your CPA, your tax preparer at the end of the year, to separate out your personal expenses from your business. Also, I will warn you that if you are audited by the IRS and you have your business expenses intermingled with your personal expenses in the same account, you have just opened up your personal life to the IRS audit also, and we don't want to go there. I was helping a friend. She's got a small business, but it's going to grow, and she's talking to me about software. I'm going to mention software in my fifth secret. But I said, well, before you launch into software, do you have a separate business checking account? And she didn't. And I said, well, the first thing you need to do to simplify your record keeping is get your own business checking account. And then I cannot believe the number of clients that are still writing checks, or they're writing checks without the benefit of duplicate checks. I guess they just don't want to spend the money to get duplicate checks. But without that, you're taking more time to do tedious record keeping, to re-record the information in your ledger, or you're forgetting at all that you wrote a check. So please, just spend the money and use duplicate checks. It's a great little secret to making record keeping quick and easy. Here's a little secret some of you may not know about and may not be using to your advantage, partially because the IRS just opened up the opportunity for self-employed people to use per diem rates for out-of-town meals. So if you travel a lot and are keeping receipts for all your meals so that you can claim them as a tax deduction, I'm going to free up your life. You can now use the per diem rates that the IRS publishes. There it is, IRS publication 1542. And just use those for your meal expenses when you're out of town, when you're traveling away from your tax work home, your tax home. Okay, the base rate is $46 a day, but if you go into a high-cost area, and many large cities are high-cost areas, it can go up to $60 or $70 a day just for meals, meaning you don't have to keep receipts. You just keep log where you went and the dates you were gone. Well, you probably have that already anyway. And then when it comes time to do your tax return, just tell your tax preparer, well, these are the cities I went to and these are the dates I was gone. And they'll take the per diem rate as your meal expense, subject to the 50% tax limitation. But still, it's better. I can't eat $46 a day. I don't know if you can. Go to IRS publication 1542 to find out what some of the high tax cities are, and free yourself from keeping all those receipts for meals when you're out of town. Here's another favorite one that a lot of people don't realize. It's such a pain to look at your odometer when you have business miles. Now, 99% of my clients take the business mileage deduction as opposed to actual expenses. So if you're keeping actual expenses for your gas or your oil changes, forget that. It's more advantageous to you 99% of the time to just keep track of your miles and stop reading that odometer. What a nuisance that is. Who remembers to read their odometer, let alone pick up a pen and record it? Instead, just use Google Maps and a calendar. Again, write down, record, which you're probably recording already in some way, shape, or form on a calendar where you went. And then when you get home, or even a week or two later, look up on Google Maps where you went and what the mileage was. I do it every couple of months. And I keep a calendar. I'm a little old-fashioned, and I still like my written calendar, but you can keep calendars, and of course electronically or on your phones or something like that. Google Maps, real easy. There's probably an app for that out there too that says where did I go today and what are my miles. And that's all you need to keep. Odometer readings are not the only way of recording your mileage. And by the way, mileage went up in half of 2011. It went up in 2012. The mileage rate is now 55.5 cents per mile. You know, I read something that said, believe it or not, that translates to over $13 per gallon. So those mileage rates cover not only your gas, but so much more, wear and tear of your car, depreciation, everything. So stop saving those gas receipts. Forget about it. Just keep track of your miles, where you went on a calendar, and then use Google Maps later to figure out the actual miles. Now, your tax preparer for 2011, now here it is, early 2012, might say to you, well, I need your mileage broken down for the first half of the year, January through June, and the last half of the year. And that's kind of a headache, but that's because Congress and the IRS raised the mileage rate. First half of the year was only 51 cents a mile, then it went up to 55.5. It's worthwhile for you to separate out your mileage for the first half of the year from the second half to get that extra 4 cents a mile, and it adds up, and it becomes quite a significant tax deduction. So that's my fourth secret. Whoops, secret number 3. I think I've mislabeled that one. Sorry. Next secret is in general to avoid data entry. Oh, I find it so tedious to be typing things. Like I said, I cannot believe that some of my clients are not automatically making payments. When someone said to me the other day, oh, I have to sit down and write out some bills, pay some bills. I mean, write out checks. You're kidding. You still do that? Don't you have automatic payments set up with your bank for recurring payments? Well, you should. And you should automatically download transactions. I couldn't believe one day when Felice and I have a mutual friend, Cindy, and she was talking about how tedious it was to type all her transactions into her software. She was using QuickBooks, a very popular software package. And I cannot believe that you were typing every transaction in. There's this wonderful thing called downloading. And you can download your bank transactions into QuickBooks automatically. Ching, ching. There might be a few little things you have to enter in, like it won't know who you wrote the check to if you're still writing checks. But that's why I encourage debit cards. Wow, when you use your debit card, it's just like writing a check, you know, but all the information is there electronically, so you're never typing a thing. At all costs, try to avoid data entry. Try to avoid the tedium of typing or having to record something on paper. Just use the electronic means that are available. It's reliable and it's going to be 100% accurate, whereas our typing or writing things down is just not necessarily always going to be accurate. I think I said it before, but I love duplicate checks if you're still using checks, because then you're not standing there holding up everybody at the at the grocery store recording information in your checkbook. Please use a debit card and use duplicate checks if you must. But the basic tip here is avoid the tedium of data entry at all costs. Save your hands. I talked a couple times about software, and I do use software for, obviously I'm a CPA, for record keeping, and I train people on how to use QuickBooks. QuickBooks is the granddaddy of accounting software for small businesses. It's been around a long time, well tested, but QuickBooks is only as good as the information that goes in, right? A little bit of garbage in, garbage out kind of play going on here. I have spent many hours helping people fix QuickBooks that they messed up. And just this week, a friend of mine was very smart, and she said, Carol, I just bought QuickBooks. I want to start 2012 out right. Will you train me in how to do it? So we spent an hour and a half, and I got her set up correctly. Now, she doesn't even have a very complicated business, but boy, you can really mess things up in QuickBooks if you don't know what you're doing. And it's got, you know, it's a great program, but it takes a little bit of learning. So please use QuickBooks. It's vital if you keep inventory. If we're talking to writers here and you have copies of your own books sitting in your home or in a storehouse, you need to keep very good records of inventory, and QuickBooks is wonderful for helping you do that. But I want to tell you about some new products that are out there that can make your record keeping so much easier. One is called FreshBooks, freshbooks.com. It was originally designed for freelancers, and it was originally designed as only a program to invoice clients, but now FreshBooks has added on the ability to also record your expenses, and overnight it downloads your transactions from your business checking account, which is why you want your business checking account separate from your personal life. And so again, saves on that data entry and keeps things electronic. It's all cloud computing, so you can access your FreshBooks account no matter where you're at, which is wonderful. It's not tied to being stuck on your laptop. And then the other one is called Outright.com. They call it bookkeeping in the cloud. Their tagline, as you see on the little box there, logo there, is free yourself from accounting. Well, don't free yourself from accountants. We're still needed. But you free yourself from the tedium of accounting with a program like Outright. Now, both Outright and FreshBooks, again, are cloud computing programs. QuickBooks also has an online version if you'd like to look into that too. They charge monthly fees based on how many transactions and things like that. They also both offer free trials. So being this is early in January, check those out and see if that doesn't free you from tedious record keeping, data entry, and just makes record keeping so much easier and better and ultimately more accurate. All right, I want to wrap up by just telling you that CPAs can be extremely helpful. I've given you lots of tips that I give to my clients to help them with record keeping, and CPAs obviously help with taxes. I recommend, if you do your own tax return, that's okay, but by the time you're a business owner, you really need to be getting some professional advice. At least every 3 years, have that self-prepared tax return reviewed, looked over by a CPA. And the reason I say at least every 3 years is because that's how long the IRS has to go back and audit you, or how long you have to make a change to a tax return that you might not have done properly, or you may not be getting every tax deduction that you're allowed. You know, just about every person that comes to me that says, I've always done my own tax return, and I like people who do their own tax returns as clients because they usually know their stuff. I almost always find some little thing that they're not doing quite properly, or I find them the more money. So at least every 3 years, if you're independent enough to insist on doing your own tax return, at least get it reviewed every 3 years. I do offer that review service for authors and writers. I'm not taking new clients who are retail or anything like that. I recommend you find a local CPA. But for authors and writers, that's my new niche particularly, I will review your tax return after tax season, so you'll have to call me after April 15th. CPAs are also very helpful in planning, and that's what we do in the off-season. And I can sit down and I can evaluate your business. We can talk about where you want to go and at what point you want to do what Felice did when she alluded to the fact that she incorporated her business, when it's appropriate to do that and when it's not going to be helpful. And ultimately, audit prevention. We find things in your tax return that are audit flags, and I talk them through with my clients and say, well, let's make sure you're not sending off any flags to the IRS, or if you are, let's make sure you have the evidence to back up your position. Felice alluded to the new book she asked me to write called Business Tips and Taxes for Writers a couple of times. This book is quite short because Felice wanted a book that would fit in her series called Information in a Nutshell. It's not bogged down with tons of tax code. I don't think I quoted the IRS once in that book. I instead share a lot of stories of writers, authors, and business people in general whose stories I think can be helpful to you as a business person, and especially to writers, authors, self-publishers, and freelancers. You can go to taxesforwriters.com and look at sample chapters, but also you're going to find out there's some podcasts and my blog, which is a question and answer blog. So if you have a question that I can easily answer on the blog, I will try to do that. Obviously, going to the book first would be advisable because you're probably going to find your question has already been answered in the book. But go ahead and look at taxesforwriters.com for sample chapters, the table of contents. And ultimately, if you think you have an issue that you really want to talk to a CPA about, but you don't know any CPAs, or your CPA is not knowledgeable about the world of self-publishing, writing, or freelancing, then please contact me and we can set up a phone consultation or a Skype call or something that's going to be unique to you and your situation. And it's going to be a very rewarding conversation because I can tailor my advice specific to you and what you need at that time, as opposed to just a generic blog answer or website answer, or worse yet, trying to find your answer on the very complicated IRS website. So those are my secrets. I hope that was helpful to anybody who is in business, or especially to writers, about keeping the record keeping for tax purposes so much easier. I don't want to make accountants out of you. You don't need to be that. You don't even need to take an accounting class, but you need to know what kind of tools and things are out there to help you. Just do that record keeping so you're freed up to do the things that you really love and enjoy, serving your clients, and if you're a writer, making that next writing project soar. So Nate, are you back there?
I am, Carol. Thank you. That was awesome. I didn't know about Outright. That was really cool for the bookkeeping.
Yeah, you should check it out. I have been waiting for a tax client or a business client to come along and say, I want to try something new. I wanted to with one of my clients, and he tried it for a month, but he ended up saying, well, it doesn't quite have what I need, so he's sticking with QuickBooks. But yeah, I'm very anxious for people to try it and give me their feedback and let me look into the program so I can make a more detailed recommendation as to who it's appropriate for. Right now, I just know about them, and I want people to know about them so they can try it out.
Very cool. And then some other great tips. I mean, the the mileage thing I didn't know, and then the per diem. I travel so much. Those were great for me. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah, Nate, it's not too late, of course, to go back for 2011 if you haven't prepared your tax return, and I doubt you have this early in the year, to say, wow, gosh, I'm going to take those per diem rates instead of and check all these receipts, because chances are it's going to be a lot more to your advantage on the tax return.
No doubt. Yeah. Awesome. Well, Felice, are you back as well?
I am. Thank you.
All right. Well, wow, those two great tips for writers and authors and anybody involved in that field. I wanted to turn it back over to you, Felice, for any questions you may have. If you guys want any advice or guidance on LinkedIn for writers or anything like that, feel free to go ahead and ask some questions, and I can give you some feedback now if you want to do that.
Absolutely, and that was one of the things I had asked Nate about this previously. And, you know, again, remember, if you're not ready to write that book, you know, and how many people have been telling you, Nate, you've got to get that book written, which really is, I shouldn't say that too much because that one book is waiting on me for the proposal. But anyway, you know, if you have a book and you travel as much as Nate does, that's really advantageous because, you know, like I said, people want to have you answer a bunch of questions, and it's just easier to say, look, you know, read my book. It will take you 4 hours, and you'll get all the information, you know, you need, and then you can consult with me because, you know, to hire me as a consultant or Carol, we're very expensive, and Carol's not even taking anybody till after tax season. So, you know, it's much easier to spring for the book, especially, you know, Carol's book's in every version, and mine is just in PDF right now. And so we are getting it in that version. Nate, if someone is interested in getting their links profile, for example, or you know, maybe making some connections if they're they've got something that they want to have found now, for example, a blog or, you know, something that they're writing, because like I said, not everyone is an author. What are some recommendations you make, you know?
For using LinkedIn or for generally getting publicity online?
For using LinkedIn. Let's say you have this great blog post that you wrote, you know, and because we're talking to authors today or anyone who's got a product or service, you know, so you've got something really exciting, you wrote this blog and you want people to read it. What would be something that they could do?
Perfect. So there's a lot of different tips we could go about doing, but the promotion of a blog itself is actually quite an easy process. So what I want to do is I want to actually pull up our blog real quick and just pull up a recent article, for example. So we have right now, we have a big push that we're doing with our LinkedIn statistics video. We have a couple other blog posts that are in the process of coming out. We've been doing a lot of activity on the blog. So outside of just generating and creating a general presence with your blog, if you want to integrate it within LinkedIn to get awareness, and you have put out a post, let's just say we have this particular post, the LinkedIn statistics video. I click on this post. The plugins that we use have the share features, which probably most of you are familiar with. Sharing on LinkedIn is not that uncommon. Whether you're on a news site or reading anything online, pretty much has the share features available. So you'll see here that we usually have a plugin right here that would work, but I'm going to scroll down. This is the video itself. There's nothing really major to this particular page other than the video. I'm just going to drop down onto LinkedIn and I'm going to click the share button. Now, what I'm about to show you for when we first started doing this got me over 20,000 hits in a single month. Now, we've shared it enough times online. It's become a little bit more diluted. This process here still gets us anywhere from a couple hundred to several thousand views on every blog post that we put out there. So if you want awareness, then what the process is, the real simple process is, you need to join groups that have the people that you want to be in front of in them. You want to be in the right groups on LinkedIn. Then you get into this particular posting, this strategy here. Pick your blog article you want to share and go post it to a group on your updates. I'm not going to post it to my updates because I've sent this out. I'm not going to send this one out actually, but I'm going to show you what to do. So from here, then you just go into you check on the post groups, check your groups box here at the top, and then just start doing the alphabet. and see which groups pull up that you want to share it with. I might want to do both of them, so I'm going to just keep on going through the alphabet. And I'll just pick everything that's relevant to this particular topic. And I'll go on, and I'll do social media. We'll pull up all the social media ones and so forth. Of course, our link strategies group, which gets it fed automatically. I'm going to do it again as well. So you can do this, and you can send it to literally, I'm in 50 groups. I can send this to 50 groups all like that. I mean, literally, how long will it take me to go through the alphabet, pick all the groups I want, hit send, it's done, and it's out to all of my community. Now, doing that is a strategy that will get you traffic, it will get you visibility, and it is a way that we get awareness for events. There's all kinds of reasons to do it, but as an author, if you want to get awareness for a book or some kind of publication, then that would be a really great strategy to get yourself some brand awareness. Make sense, Felice?
Yes, it does. It does. And I know Carol's been doing that, and I noticed traffic on Amazon, so we were making sales, and they were, not familiar names because we're both involved in, several similar types of groups and networking. And it's amazing because sometimes you think the people that are going to buy your product don't. I talked a lot about relationships and building relationships and having some brand awareness. And, it's important to try those groups first, but not be afraid to reach out beyond that. And then, finding people. Let's say that you have something that you want a recommendation for. A lot of times I get people who write me recommendations, and I remember asking you this question early on, Nate, saying, well, I don't really know these people, and I don't want to post their recommendation, or I might know them a little bit, and then I'll accept because it's a great recommendation, but I don't really want to write a recommendation back. And you said you said, oh, you don't have to, So, but what if somebody, but on the flip side, what if you're approaching somebody and they feel that way about you? I mean, what is a good way to get a recommendation from someone?
It's a good question, and ultimately the bottom line is the best way to get a recommendation is to give one, and it's really up to them to give it. Another way, actually, let me rephrase that. The best way to get a recommendation is to give one and then follow up with an email to them, or actually even better than that, an in-mail within LinkedIn, sending them a working sample recommendation. So most of my clients that I work with are extremely busy, top 4% speakers, consultants, business people in the world. And they're all willing to give me a recommendation. I just have to write it and have to send it to them, and then they'll tweak it and edit it, and then they'll send it back, or they'll post it on LinkedIn for me or whatever. And so that's, I think, ultimately the best way. It's kind of maybe a little bit presumptuous to send one, without them asking for it first. So I usually, the process I use to get recommendations is I ask for them, number one. Like when I'm on a webinar or I'm in front of my market, I ask, hey, guys, I'm looking for new recommendations on my profile. I get 3,000 hits a month to my profile. You're going to get visibility. It will help you out as much as it will help me out. I really appreciate it. And that's how I got the 44 that I have right now. But I also send out targeted requests to specific people. So like for people that I've worked with, right when we've signed up and we've done something really great, I'm going to send them a request for a recommendation or a testimonial. Usually I do it as a recommendation on LinkedIn, and then I pull it off of that and I use that for my website. So that's, there's not like I guess the science of it is, if you give 10, you're probably going to get 1 or 2 back. And then just keep reminding them, hey, I know you're busy, really looking forward to getting that recommendation if you're open to it. I'd send like 1, 2, or 3 reminders, and then I drop it. If they're uncomfortable, they're not sending it because they're uncomfortable. So,
right.
Yeah.
And we expect that too when we put a book out, because Amazon's very visible. So even though we have websites and blogs, we prefer people go to Amazon and post their comments there. And that's one of the biggest gifts you can give an author if you like their book, is to post a comment about their book. They love it. And another, just on a side, my assistant had a book, an author she absolutely loved, and she reached out to this lady and said, can my boss interview you for her radio show? And she arranged for this, high-end speaker to, for me to interview her. But, people like that. They want to be interviewed on radio shows, podcasts, and just another way to get seen and heard, and then we post that information on our social media groups as well. And, again, working together in situations such as this. Nate, I don't know if you saw Carol posted a question to you. Or Carol, if you're live, you can just go ahead and ask Nate.
Oh, hold on. There you go. Go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, Nate, thanks for sharing that tip about posting your web blog posts to LinkedIn groups. I started doing that, and it's been great. But one thing I find a little confusing about LinkedIn is sometimes I want to go to one of those groups and see my post or my discussion starter or something like that, and I'm having a little bit of trouble trying to see myself, if that makes sense, on LinkedIn. I want to follow what I've contributed to groups, and sometimes I'm a little confused about how to do that easily.
So if you can see on the screen, and before I jump into that, there's also another question from Charmaine who came in, and it said, when I try to do this posting to the groups process, she gets marked as spammed by the moderator. One thing I would recommend that everybody knows what the rules of the groups are that they're in, and that you do not select the groups that would, say that it's spam. Like, I'll never promote a webinar this way. I never promote webinars like this. I used to. I started that way, but then I got the same thing as Charmaine said here. I got kicked out of a couple groups I didn't want to get kicked out of, and I didn't realize it. I put it on autopilot with my team, and I didn't realize, and they had not moderated the responses from the moderator, which said don't do that anymore. And then when they did it a second time, then I got booted out. So, I learned from my mistakes too, and I recommend that everybody, kind of test things out and learn as well. But one thing is we really want to make sure of is that we're not doing a singular like promotional piece, because there's just so much promotion going on LinkedIn. What we need to do is we need to attract people in with good content and interesting insights. So, I'll promote my webinars. The only way I promote my webinars right now is to my group that I've built and to my list. But to get there, I use this model as part of the process. Now, we have had other people talk about events and promote to events, and some of the groups don't have any group rules, and go ahead and test it out until they say something and play around with that. It's just going to be something you have to test out. What I like to do now, my primary strategy is sharing really great content on my blog. And if you go to my blog, you'll actually see that they go to the video. All of my promotional pieces are right here on the side. I want people to get the free guide. I want them to either look at our live training program online, or join one of our upcoming webinars. And you'll see that our YouTube videos are tied in on the right, and we have some other feeds and stuff going on. So, our big push right now is this video. And we just want to see a lot of clicks and get a lot of viral spread of that video. We want a lot of the consultants and so forth to take it on. But to get back to your question, Carol, what we're looking at is when you go into a group that's not yours, so I'm not the owner of Consultants Network, I want to go over here and I want to just click on the More tab, and right below that you'll see Your Activity. You see that?
Yep. That's probably what I was looking for.
Yep, that's the button you're looking for, and then you'll see every update that you've posted to this group ever. So
that's great. Because sometimes you know how it is, Nate. We share information with, as part of a conversation, and then it comes up a few weeks later, and you think, oh gosh, where did I answer that question before? What did I say to that person? and that's what I was looking for. Just an easy way to copy the answer or the advice I've given before to somebody new. Great.
Yep, that's it.
That's helpful.
Cool. You guys have
Another thing I do is I check the little box to follow the conversation, because after you post something, you can check that so it comes into my inbox, because otherwise I will never see it again or remember to even go back to LinkedIn and find out what my activity is. So if you follow the conversation that you posted to, anybody else who comments, you'll get that email. and then you can go right there and click and go back and continue on that conversation. Because sometimes things are directed at me, and I'm not paying attention because, you know, life happens. And so that's, you know, well, just like this book, Nate, okay, we've come out with, you know, we have a book 1 and another book in the series, and so we want to get attention from the people on LinkedIn that might be interested in a series of books. So one of the things both of us have done is we've joined a lot of the different writing groups. You know, if you click on promotions, I don't know how many of you, you know, those listening ever looks at promotions. I don't even know why they bother with promotions other than a place for people to put them, because no one's going to look at the promotion link.
Right.
So how do you cloak, you know, yes, you can, you know, the first thing that comes to me is articles and blog articles, and then on your blog you have, you know, more information about your book. But what are some things you might recommend to authors that, you know, want to get found, and especially when they're doing a book launch, because we're launching Carol's book right now?
So you're looking for the steps to take for a book launch?
Well, just for to let your connections know on LinkedIn, because we've already done, you know, we've done our number 1, you know, which is build a group, you know, build out your relationships, and you've got your joint ventures. We have people who are, you know, helping with the promotion. Carol has hired a publicist. So we want to let our people know on LinkedIn and our groups know, but we don't want to put it in promotions, and we don't want to say, hey, buy this book. So what are some ways that we can let our groups know without it being considered spam, or, you know, how do we get the word out?
Well, I mean, if you're in the right groups, what I would do is actually create a nice blog post, an informational blog post that would be of interest to your market. And it gives like a tip or two away. Maybe it's something like, I don't know, you know, the title of one of your webinars, right? And then just, you know, turn that into a simple little article with a few bullet points. And then say, you know, if you like this information, at the bottom of it, you do a little shameless plug. And you sign off, you know, hey, this is from Cheryl, and then in your signature line, you say author of, and you put the book and the link to Amazon. And then you go share that particular article in an open group. So like if you shared that article, that wouldn't get through Link Strategies because of our group rules. Like it has to be about social media. But if you're in a writer's group and that was open, like an open, there's open and closed groups, guys. And so if you find one that's open, as soon as you get to the open group, let's take, for example, this announcement I just sent a couple of days ago. If I click on this announcement, you'll see that on the right top side, I have the option of sharing. Then you don't have to have a blog post to do this. You just post it in one open group, and then you hit the share button on LinkedIn, and then you go share that exact article in all of the other groups. It's quite fast that way. So like this is my announcement, Link Strategies announcement. Then I can just go here instead, and I can share. And then I basically would copy the headline in the subject, and I'd copy the body in the detail, and then I hit submit to the groups, and I'd be done. So
that's cool. You know what I'm thinking I'm going to do, Nate? I'm going to take these 5 secrets I shared, make 5 blog posts out of them, and start just sharing those, especially because it's the start of tax season and people are thinking about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and then throw your signature line at the bottom and say, you know, and put, you know, author of the XYZ book, grab your copy here at Amazon, and that just looks like a signature line, not a promotion. So that's going to be a good way to do it. That answer your question, Felice?
Absolutely. I love to try to stump the teacher, though, Nate.
Almost had me for a minute.
Oh, gosh. Well, I'm open to any other questions.
You know, Nate, you said something about not promoting webinars on your LinkedIn groups anymore, but I did, and a lot of times I appreciate when people do share webinars if I think those are going to be, you know, helpful to me. It's sort of the, you know, 20 to 1 rule Felice was talking about. You might eliminate 20 emails, but every once in a while someone's going to send an email or open up a discussion on LinkedIn about a webinar they're hosting, and it's going to be of interest to me, so I want that information. Why are you reluctant to post the fact that you host these webinars on your LinkedIn groups?
I'm not reluctant, so to say. What's happened is the risk of losing the groups to perceive promotion. See, the thing is, I'm probably one of the most consistent people on LinkedIn, right? So meaning that I'm posting and sharing in these groups all the time. And so if you go to if we go to one of our groups, let's just take a look at like the National Networking Group. This is a group I own. It's a group just for networking purposes, so we have little subgroups in major cities around the country. But if we end up looking down, this one's actually pretty full of other people's comments, which is great. So this is a bad example. But if we go to one that doesn't have as many people in it, then you're going to see a lot of it's going to have my links. Like it's kind of like I'm going to overtake the 300 or 500 person group because I'm posting more frequently than anybody else. And so what I end up doing is, I think you're probably right, Carol. I could probably stand to still do one post a month for the webinars, like pick the webinar and do that, and that's probably something I should reinstitute, because that's a way that I would get 700 people on a webinar doing that originally.
Yeah, I see. You're saying you don't want to wear out your welcome.
Yeah. So
and I see that's true of some groups I'm in. I keep seeing the same person like dominating the conversation, and I feel like just backing out of the group because it's just ends up being dominated by one or two people, and it's not very interactive. I see what you mean.
Yeah. So it's just one of those touch and feel things. But I think you're right. I think I should test that out, and that's a good idea because I get a lot of people that way because we're talking about LinkedIn. I mean, it's obviously of value to any group.
Yeah. So
thank you. Another person asked, can I share to multiple groups at once without having a paid account? That's from Charmaine again. I believe so. I have a paid account, so somebody without one would have to jump in and try to do the same thing. But I'm 99.
I do, Nate.
Yeah.
I can share with multiple groups. Now, how you were showing how you were going through the alphabet at that one point, that's what when I share a blog post, I'll go through the alphabet of my groups and pick the ones that are most appropriate audience for that particular blog post. And I don't have a paid LinkedIn. I'm still at the free version.
Perfect. So there's your answer. Yep, absolutely. Cool. Any final things, please? Or we're coming upon the hour here.
Yeah, let's wrap up. Just again, appreciate you having us, and anyone who's interested in getting more information in a nutshell. As you can see by our presentations, we try to be as brief and concise as we can, giving you real information. So I'm available for consulting for anyone who's interested. Just contact me via email at felice@mediaangels.com, and that's FELICE. And we'd appreciate some feedback on our books. If you purchase our books through Amazon, you can get it through Kindle, and on our website at mediaangels.com, we have every e-version available there. So I just want to thank you, Nate, for doing that and having us, come up on the show and share.
Awesome. Well, I was really honored to be able to share your guys' expertise with everybody and all the writers and authors that are in our groups and follow us on our blogs and so forth. And for those of you that are live with us today, thank you so much for attending. And for those of you that are watching the replay on the blog or on YouTube or wherever else you may be seeing it, please feel free to connect with myself and with Felice and Carol. Are you guys open to being connected with anyone listening to this program?
Oh, yes.
Absolutely. Great.
Absolutely.
Connect with them. Reach out to everybody on LinkedIn. If you didn't get Felice's email there, then make sure to connect with Carol and Felice. It's both of them are on LinkedIn and heavily engaged. So that would be a good platform for you to connect with and get more information from about what they do on their profiles. And then you can also reach out and request some more information from them that way. So, ladies, it was wonderful. I know that all the aspiring authors, even the current authors that are looking to manage their books better, everybody should be able to get something from this presentation that's in the writing and author space. So I certainly did. I'm an author. I learned quite a bit from both of you. Thank you so much. And for anybody listening in, please share your comments about the webinar that we just shared with you. on the blog post or on YouTube page or wherever it is that you may be seeing this. We'd love to get your feedback, and that all funnels back to us so that we can share the information with Felice and Carol to improve on their presentations every time. So again, thank you everybody, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Nate. Bye-bye. Bye, Felice.
Bye.
Bye, all.